Six creepy, true Christmas library horror stories. Tonight we delve into the quiet aisles of libraries where the scent of aging paper usually mixes with the comforting silence. But not tonight. Tonight, we uncover six terrifying tales that transform these sanctuaries of knowledge into haunted repositories of fear. So, grab a blanket, turn off the lights, and make sure you're subscribed because you do not want to miss what's coming. It's 1967 Christmas Eve. Snow falls softly outside, blanketing a small Midwest town. Inside the library, a librarian makes a terrifying discovery.
I found an ancient book titled The Unfinished Carol. Intrigued, I gathered my coworkers.
As the librarian reads, the story unfolds. But as midnight nears, the tone turns sinister.
A cold dread creeps in as the story ends abruptly. Scratching sounds echo, followed by whispers. Finish it. Finish it.
The next morning, her lifeless body is found, still clutching the ancient book. Every year since, anyone who opens the unfinished carol vanishes. Our next story takes us to a chilly December night in 2012. Finals week has descended upon a bustling college campus, and the library is abuzz with the frantic energy of sleep-deprived students.
As the hours tick by and the library empties, I become aware of a solitary figure in the distance. A man in a long red coat, his back turned to me, browsing the fiction section.
Mustering her courage, she decides to approach him, but as she gets closer, he turns, his face obscured by the dim lighting. In a hushed tone, he whispers, "Don't let the clock strike 12," before vanishing into thin air.
Later, I learn a chilling legend. The library's founder, a stern figure who always wore a red coat, is said to haunt the library, protecting late-night visitors from a dark fate.
As the clock tower chimes midnight, a heavy book plummets from the top shelf, narrowly missing her. Our next story takes us to a chilly December night in 2012. Finals week has descended upon a bustling college campus, and the library is abuzz with the frantic energy of sleep-deprived students.
As the hours tick by and the library empties, I become aware of a solitary figure in the distance. A man in a long red coat, his back turned to me, browsing the fiction section.
Mustering her courage, she decides to approach him, but as she gets closer, he turns, his face obscured by the dim lighting. In a hushed tone, he whispers, "Don't let the clock strike 12," before vanishing into thin air.
Later, I learn a chilling legend. The library's founder, a stern figure who always wore a red coat, is said to haunt the library, protecting late-night visitors from a dark fate.
As the clock tower chimes midnight, a heavy book plummets from the top shelf, narrowly missing her. Our next story leads us to the quaint, snow-covered town of Havenwood, Maine, where a sense of unease has settled over the local library. For over a decade, a string of disappearances has plagued the town, each vanishing shrouded in unsettling mystery.
Witnesses claim to have seen the victims in the library, following an unassuming elderly man into a section of the building that, according to staff, didn't exist, the archives.
Years later, during much-needed renovations, a chilling discovery was made. A hidden basement, concealed behind a wall in the restricted section. Inside, a solitary Christmas tree stood adorned with faded ornaments, its once festive glow replaced by an eerie stillness. And at the base of the tree, surrounded by piles of decaying books, lay the skeletal remains of the missing patrons. Chapter 4. The Singing Book. This story takes us back to the winter of 1989, where a group of adventurous kids decided to turn their local library into their own personal playground after hours.
As we explored the musty aisles, we stumbled upon a hidden alcove, its shelves lined with ancient leather-bound volumes. One book in particular caught our eye, a heavy, ornate tome titled Carols of the Dead.
As they began to leaf through the book, a chilling melody filled the air. An eerie, disjointed Christmas carol, sung by voices that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves.
Panic surged through us as we desperately tried to slam the book shut, but it wouldn't budge. Blood began to seep from the pages, staining our hands crimson.
By morning, only the book remained, lying open on the floor, the children's names scrawled on the final page in what appeared to be blood. Chapter 5. The Forgotten Librarian. In the heart of London, nestled among cobblestone streets and Victorian-era architecture, stands an old library, its shelves holding centuries of stories.
On my second night, alone in the dimly lit building, I noticed a peculiar sight. An elderly woman dressed in a dated uniform, meticulously shelving books in the history section.
As she drew closer, the woman turned, her face etched with a melancholic expression. "You shouldn't have let me out," she whispered, her voice raspy, as if unused for decades.
The next morning, I recounted the strange encounter to the head librarian, who paled upon hearing my description.
Legend had it that a former librarian had tragically died in the library on Christmas Eve a century earlier, accidentally locked in by staff. It seemed the forgotten librarian was not as forgotten as everyone had believed. Chapter 6. The Snow Globe Incident. In the children's section of a city library, a snow globe became a conduit for something sinister.
Among the misplaced mittens, I found a snow globe with a tag reading "Property of Santa's Archive."
Shaking it, he saw a shadowy figure in the reflection.
That night, a whisper from the shadows said, "You shouldn't have touched my memories."
The boy was never seen again. The snow globe reappeared, its scene now an empty snow-covered landscape. Libraries, man. They're supposed to be these safe havens, right? Places of knowledge and quiet contemplation. But after hearing these stories, I don't know if I can ever look at a card catalogue the same way again. So the next time you find yourself wandering through the aisles of your local library, just remember these stories and keep an eye on the shadows. You never know what might be lurking between the pages.